All right, everybody. Welcome, my friends, to the podcast that never ends. Welcome back. It feels so good to be back again. Oh, man, episode 55. That was such a great time with Chris from Pueblo, Colorado. Actually, he's by way of other places, and he's living in Pueblo, Colorado. Thanks again for that opportunity for he and I to chop it up and discuss with receipts, so to speak, as the kids would say today. I'm talking about Star Wars and Star Trek. That's the first part. There's going to be some other episodes with him, some other parts with him. That's part one. And again, everyone else can partake and do the same things here in these episodes. Basically, what you're talking about is you can have an idea, and that can be put into an episode. You can have a lot of things to talk about, and you want to chop it up, and you want to be a part of it, and you want to check it out and do the things that we do on this podcast, and actually be on a podcast, have a microphone in front of you with something to say, and we can have a conversation. And what I'm about to do today, episode 56, of course, I want to give a big thanks to props to Keyshawn. He's actually from Alabama by way of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I want to give him a big thanks. This is the same Keyshawn that came up with the Frenemies episode, and he also came up with the People Pleasing episode. This is the third thing he came up with, which was this entitled parents, basically. And so he came up with an idea for the entitled parents. So he came up with all three of those different ideas for these episodes, which is brilliant. And again, I told you that he, amazingly enough, could definitely do this himself, and he has so many great ideas and everything else. He's got a lot going on, and impressive. I'm completely impressed in the process and the way in which he has conducted himself and his ideas and everything else. I think it's awesome. It's so much fun. This is so much fun to do. Oh, hell yes. Love it. All right, so episode 56 is Parental Apathy, entitled Vanity, a perfect storm of parenting. A perfect storm of parenting. And again, he came up front with the idea of entitled parents, the helicopter parents, the ones that can use their last name, their status, their money, and all these other ways in which to basically live vicariously through their children, but have it to where it's set in stone that they can rule things and all these other ways in which that it's done. And I'll further explain in this wonderful episode here. Again, this podcast, I love it. The Arena of Ideas podcast, AOI. It's the AOI podcast. This is episode 56. Parenting Apathy, entitled Vanity, a perfect storm of parenting. This is going to give you, it's kind of like the three phases, if you will. There's other things in life, and, maybe you don't, maybe this doesn't apply to you. Maybe it does. Maybe people are afraid to admit to it. I don't know. Anyway, this is a triangulation of the parenting situations. One's the entitled parent. One's the apathetic parent. So the entitled parent is what I just explained, where they go through user status, their money, and all these other things on which to get their message across, right? To get whatever they want done, to get their kid in the best schools, or to be the most impressive, get keys to the city, who knows what. Anyway, that's the entitled parents. Then you have the apathetic parents, where they basically take and throw money at everything. They basically throw money at everything, throw money at their kid and stuff like that. They don't want to be a part of anything. They just throw money like a Band-Aid, if you will, in the process of them trying to go through school and all these other things. And then the last parent is basically the parent that wants to be the friend, wants to be the cool parent, if you will. It's the cool parent. So entitled parent, the apathetic parent, and the cool parent, the one that, they're going to have all the kids over to drink or to do whatever else because, they're going to do it anyway. And they want to matter and everything else, probably in their own lives. They didn't mean anything. They didn't move the needle on anything. It didn't matter whatever's happening. Anyway, that's where it's the perfect storm of parenting. And somewhere between all of it is the truth, is the reason, and is basically everybody else in life. You try to raise your kids up the best you can do. You try to arm them with as much logic, reason, common sense, and everything else you can do to where they can have the best life they can have. They can learn things and they can grow up and be great representations of the community as citizens and everything else in this world. You hope for all that, right? Your intentions are all that. And maybe if you're on this 3 parts of this here, maybe your intentions originally are pure and everything else you want to do is totally correct and it's right and it seems good. But then other things happen in your life and change in your life. And so this changes accordingly as well. All right. And I have a little note in here. All 3 types have an impact and an effect and the cause and path of their children's outcomes and futures. Meaning that in all 3, the things that are done or not done or said or unsaid are the things that are going to gravely affect the outcome when it comes to their kids. And again, I want to, once again, props and a shout out to Keyshawn. I told you he's from Alabama by way, he's from Alabama by way of Colorado Springs, Colorado. And again, appreciation for this. Brilliant, another brilliant idea from him. The 3, I'm sure there's going to be more down the road, featured and brainstormed ideas of what he comes up with. And like I told all of you out there, this is an opportunity for what you have to say, what you want out there to matter and to be a part of it all. I mean, it doesn't matter. I told you that it's your podcast and I'm the host. Enough of that. I'm going to get on to this, but this is a chance for everyone. And again, I'm just the host and creator of this podcast. And it's all of you out there that make this happen. You make it go and you make it so much fun to be a part of this entire process. You do, being honest. Okay. All right. Enough of the butting up to everyone. Anyway, we're going to continue on with this. So again, episode 56, Parental Apathy, entitled Vanity, A Perfect Storm of Parenting. Entitled Parents Who Love to Live Vicariously Through Their Children. Because they fell short in their lives, who now at any cost will see their shortcomings now come to fruition through their flesh and blood. Through their own flesh and blood, meaning their kids, right? The more kids, the more of an appetite for exacting their own opportunity in their mind. And again, you can do so many more things that are out there now than you talk about decades and decades and decades ago and last century and all this other things. Now that everything's out there, people can do so much more if you have the right amount of money or if you have the right amount of status or wealth or whatever's going on. You could pretty much do anything you put your mind to. Anything's possible, and money doesn't solve everything, and neither does all the rest of these situations in this episode. It's just, it allows people an opportunity to do more and more when it comes to that process, right? Exactly. So, see, their own opportunity in their mind of fortune, fame, glitz, and glamour. Those helicopter parents, if you will, in quotes, hyper-focused, overpowering, and overbearing parents who, on the surface, seem loving, nurturing, caring, and concerned for their sons and daughters' well-being, saying they want to do the very, very best, no matter what. They want the very best for their children. And they keep emphasizing that. And the more they emphasize that, the more it's like in their minds, they're going through this mental checklist in their minds, thinking that makes it better. Well, it doesn't. All it's doing is simply is feeding the beast, if you will, when it comes to this situation or all situations. Because once someone gets power, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Of course it does. So does the same thing when everybody else has this and they can hang this over other people and use it to their advantage or to the advantage of the situation dealing with their children. Right? Correct. All right. So dysfunction, like the family who takes a perfect picture for all the world to see. For all the world to see, yet you peel back the layers of this onion, doing a deep dive, getting down to the metaphorical metal of the trophies and accolades achieved by their offspring prodigies. People add up, they tally up, they have a trophy case, they have all these other things. Everybody, some people do that. Some people will just, they would want to know their status in life, their place in life, their kids, and all these other things, and where do they rank and all this other stuff. Well, when you start thinking all that stuff, that's where the trouble begins. Because, kids can't be kids. And I have another episode called When a Kid Can Be a Kid is basically going to be an episode. Remember when a kid could be a kid? You could just be a kid. You could, go out, have a good time, meet people on your own. Nothing's really measured or taken care of in that capacity, because you actually just sit there and you just go out and meet people, have a good time, and enjoy life. Not anymore. Everything has to have a schedule. Everything has to have, every minute of every day has to be accounted for, and every situation, every process, and all these other crazy ways in which, it's this overscheduling and overdrive of life, basically. Revealed is this facade of insecurity, jealousy, narcissism, and vanity. Screaming, look at me, look at me. It's like, I don't want to draw attention to myself, but everything you're doing is this hyper-focused, the limelight, if you will, of all things. And you may love that and everything as a parent, but do your kids? That's the question. Do they just want to be themselves, enjoy what's going on in life? Or do you want to make it to where it's, this stress, this competitive stress and all these other things you do? All right. The parents, look how I got my kid to where they are today. Look how I did it. Look at me. Look how I did it for my kid. They're not saying that. You could read it from a mile away. You could see that storm, that perfect storm, if you will, just coming right in across the horizon. You can. All their motives, actions, and most of the time unwanted, warranted, pushing the envelope, and a blurred line between perception of what is in the best interest and intentions for the children's well-being. Meaning that, they do want this, they want that. But again, remember, it's not you, it's they, and they're the ones that are growing up and doing all this, but it's you speaking on their behalf. It's not giving them a chance to have their voice and their opinion about what's truly going on here, right? Exactly. That's the whole process here. That's what you have to look at. You should give them the floor. You should let them raise their hand or have the platform and opportunity to look at you and tell you, well, these are things I want to do. These are things I want to accomplish and I want to get to in life. And these are some of the things I want to go out and do these sports, or I want to go out and do this or this activity or that activity, and finding real interest in what your kids do and then being for them as a support group. But of course, this episode's not about that at all. No, it's not. All right. So on the polar opposite of this process is the well-to-do, highly connected, elite, rich parents who love to keep up appearances and are more concerned over the optics and perception than really the intensity and overbearing codependent traits of the aforementioned parents. Heavy-handed, it's all this or that, and where do you rank and all those things, right? Like I said, kids don't look at everything to the optics of that. Just remember yourself as a kid, and all the young people out there, this is really a podcast for everyone. So you've got older people, younger people, you've got all people in different backgrounds and different situations. But ultimately, the young people that are out there now, going through this episode, can you connect with the situation? And if you're the older people and the parents, can you connect with it? Or are you just on the other side of the coin, if you will, the other side of the fence with all this, and you're just kind of in your own skin and you're just trying to do the very best you can do for your kids, but it's a process of this learning, and when you make mistakes, that's where you learn the best. It's moxie, it's steel sharpening steel, allowing your children to have the opportunity to speak up, speak their own minds, be willing to take their own chances and make their own mistakes. Right? Exactly. Anyway, so the mom and dad who will sit at the back of the room, calling it participation, and attend events, meetings, etc., and so on, because they read it's mandatory. And this is kind of addressing those apathetic parents, the ones that show up because they have to. They'll throw money at something. They won't participate. They won't be a part of like the PTA meeting or something else and be a part of the process of trying to help and go out there in that way. They'll just throw money at everything else. They'll just kind of focus on what they got to do and let the rest of it kind of figure itself out. And, it's the ones that don't have the hyper focus. Their focus is so far away from that. They use the money like a Band-Aid to kind of do the cover up on that whole process, right? Exactly. Instead of leading a group or taking charge and heading up volunteering every waking minute to the cause, they are reaching into their wallet, their pocketbook, they're throwing money at everything like a Band-Aid, masking their issues of apathy, calling it being chilled and low key, right? They're just saying, oh, I'm just kind of here, whatever, right? Exactly. So when the truth is not caring due to possible upbringing themselves, they could have gone through that where, a long time ago, back in the 70s and so on, there was latchkey kids where your parents worked all the time. You had a key to get in. You kind of found your own things to do and everything else. And your parents were really there, but they really weren't invested. They were just kind of there because they felt like they had to be to some degree. So they just, whatever. They just put themselves out there that way. So basically they themselves, had the situation dealing with that learning, upbringing. It could be a learned experience from them and what they had to go through with their parents. And so they're just kind of carrying through, and that's what they did. So letting that be the bell cow and how they operate, basically. Kids would rather have their parents open up and be somewhere in the middle of these two extremes, these bookends to the chapters of their lives. Social media, technology, the one-up, people, doing the one-up thing. I can do better than you. I can do better than you crowd. Everyone gets a award, a trophy for participation, so on and so forth. In the spotlight, superhero, not the sidekick paradigm. Meaning, they're the ones taking over. They're the ones letting everything in their lives and what they're doing and their shortcomings bleed through in the process of parenting, and not letting it be a cohabitated situation where parents and kids are living in the same matrix, if you will, and the process. And remembering, they're just smaller representations of you, and you have to, do that, be in your best behavior, so to speak, but you do get the people in the spotlight, superhero, not the sidekick paradigms, things like that can truly get in the way. All right, so winning over what did you learn? On and on. Society is always there with going viral, what gets clicks, the next big thing. These are all big quotes, and air quotes, if you will. What gets clicks, going viral, the next big thing. Some people also will see, let's say you're a famous person and you got, a news story about you or something. And a lot of times they say, don't read things on the bulletin board, and also about yourself. Don't read things about yourself because it may shape and change the way you are. Because you could be this virtuous, great person and this, epicenter of awesomeness, but you can kind of read and kind of feed off your own, your own situation when it comes to your ego and id, if you will. All right. So basically what I'm going to do is, I'm trying to break this thing up and get, chop this up in bites and stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, get some music going here as bumper music, and then we'll come right back. This, of course, is episode 56. This, of course, is episode 56, Parental Apathy, entitled Vanity, A Perfect Storm of Parenting, and we'll be right back. All right, everyone. We're back. Thanks again. Again, I like to chop this up and give it a little bit of a rest and a break, and that's a way in which these bumper music situations, guys out there listening, if you've started listening or if you've been here forever, guess what? When I go to the bumper music and everything, that's where you can hit the pause button, go out and do whatever you got to do, or just keep listening. It doesn't really matter. I just want it to all be out there for you. Again, this is your podcast. But that's a way to hit the pause button, go out and do what you got to do, and then come right back, and we're right here for you. So basically, instead of pulling your son or daughter aside and asking, how was your day? What did you learn? How do you feel about blank? Whatever seems to be the moment of the day, the flavor of the week, or whatever's going on. Being present in the moment, you either have the overscheduling tyrant who stacks victories of their kids, not giving the chance of this, saying a kid can be a kid. And I kind of explained that earlier. Again, I'm going to remember when you were a kid. Again, that's going to be an episode, but that's kind of the way it is. A kid can be a kid. Kid can go out and make mistakes, win, succeed, lose, otherwise, but take the chance, kind of, stepping off the curb to cross the street in life. But the kid gets that chance to do the same thing. Again, he's just a smaller representation. And again, he's like a sponge, and everything that you do in a good way or bad way, it's going to be a part of the process and the answer to them, which is scary because you may not think about it that way, but sometimes you have to think outside the fishbowl when it comes to kids. I'm not some parenting guru. Again, everything I do is an awareness exercise. It's just kind of the introspect of all of us and what we have to look at in the process, right? Exactly. And everybody out there, what do you think? What are you thinking about so far? Again, I haven't covered all the material and and the research and everything else I did and the content of this episode. But what do you think? Where do you stand with all this? It's maybe it's a part of your life. Maybe you know other people that this is what they do or what you see on the outside of what's going on, right? It could be. It could be that you know people in your family, or it could be your friends, or it could be, who knows, what you do, what you see, but everybody's connected in everything in the process of life. We're all interconnected. We are. Some way, shape, or form. The human condition is always there, and it's what we do with it, right? So let's get back to this anyway. So, excuse me. It's always the professing of being busy and on to the next event. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Schedule, schedule, schedule. Or the I could care less. It's more looking at their bank statement. It's actually, looking at their bank statement as how to measure the level of participation they achieve. In the don't bother me with the little details, in quotes, approach. Yes, they are successful measured by the stuff, if you will, in quotes. Measured by the stuff that people have. Do they have a 10-car garage? Do they have a mansion? Do they have this or that? They count everything according to status or stature, like I was saying before, and I'm not going to, beat a dead horse or reiterate and bring this back to what it was before. I'm just saying there's just people out there that's what they live by, man. They just live vicariously through that. It's just, you gotta have to take something to calm yourself down or something in the process of going 100 miles an hour all the time and thinking that everyone else needs to be up with you, or keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. It's another way to keeping up with everyone else, one-upping somebody, you're better, or your kids need to be better, or your kids are better, or whatever's going on. In your mind, you're thinking this. Maybe everyone else does too. Maybe they don't. Again, that's why objectively we're doing this episode, and we do all things. It's looking at everything from every angle, making a determination and decision, and then going on from there. What do you think about it? What's your opinion of this and all things? Yes, they are successful measured by the stuff again they collect, and probably are a beast, if you will, in quotes, at work. To the tune of being a workaholic who is there 50 to 80 hours weekly out of 168 hours in a week. And, they do all these other things. they keep driving and striving to become more successful so they can help support their family and everything. But in the process, maybe they've lost themselves in the translation of it all. Maybe they have. The subject matter of this episode, thanks Keyshawn from Colorado Springs. Again, it's from Alabama by way of Colorado Springs, Colorado. For the inspiration, delves into both sides of the coin, hyper-focused to a lack of it. Meaning the apathetic ones that don't care. Those entitled helicopter parents to the ones that are apathetic and can give a bleep about any of it. They don't care. Then there are some who might start out as a entitled parent, get burnout and fatigue from it, and then become tuned out and into obscurity from it. They just go off the grid basically when it comes to everything, right? I mean, it could be, God, either side. I mean, you can go from one side of the spectrum, go to the other side of the spectrum, and somewhere in between there, we'll get into the cool parents too. Because, I mean, again, there's a whole lot of new stuff about that going on too. So, all right. Anyway, so another angle in adding to this episode, you have the overbearing helicopter. Come on, Mike. Helicopter parents, the apathetic out to lunch, throwing money as a Band-Aid. Now, and a last way to view this triad of parenting, in quotes, of course, it's the cool parents, in quotes. The ones who take and do whatever it takes to get what they think it needs to get their kids up in popularity and social ladders, moving up their statures, all in the name of themselves. And again, it could be people that really don't have all the money. They can't throw money at a problem. They don't have the stature and everything else, but they're charismatic and they're cool and they have this way about them that kind of plays upon the cool social media kind of part of this aspect of this triad, if you will, this perfect storm of parenting, as I was making mention of it. All right, so again, we're talking about this pendulum of parenting, and it starts in the center where, if you looked at a pendulum, it starts in the middle and there's an arc. It goes to the left and there's an arc that goes to the right, and then there's the center. Center would be of course, where everybody is. The centermost point is everybody starting at the center and, being a parent, trying to raise kids the right way as best as you possibly can, getting them an education and everything else, teaching them along the way and everything else in the pendulum. And then the pendulum, again, will swing to the left. That's the entitled parents, the helicopter parents, and everything else, where they're far from the center of where they really should be. And they're thinking what they can, what's right for them is right for their kids. And then it goes back to center where, you're at. But then on the swing on the right of the pendulum, it's the other side where it's the apathetic parents, right? And so to the other side is where they're throwing money at everything. Well, somewhere kind of in a 1 degree of separation and blurred lines from all the rest that we just discussed. You've got, the cool parents and I'm going to discuss this. I've got this article called The Secure Dad, in quotes, The Secure Dad. Cool parents is the one who let their kids do whatever they want, have no real structure, and are very hands off. So in a way, they're kind of like the apathetic parents, but they're hands off. They get out of the way and let all the guards down and all the things you would do as a parent. You would, you have certain things, you want discipline and certain ways in which to make sure you structure your children properly. Well, all those are all taken away. All those barriers and all those things like that are all pushed aside and taken away for the cool parents. They're hands off. They don't monitor their kids, letting them be social butterflies. Social butterfly, go ahead and go out there and do everything, have fun, no guards. It's like in a vehicle, they can put a governor on a vehicle to control the speed and everything else, and you have brakes and all these things on a vehicle. Well, it's kind of like metaphorically taking that off of a kid and now they're allowed to just go out and run roughshod and everything else they want to do. Social butterflies, allowing vices like drugs, sex, alcohol, and whatever they desire into their own homes, stating kids are going to do it anyways, so at least they can watch them, they can watch over them, they can make sure that they're okay, so they can do all these things, and they'll make sure they don't overdose or something else doesn't happen. Or it could be something else. It could be a number of things. Again, this is an article, The Secure Dad. This is a cop-out and a joke, if you will. Note, kind of the antithesis of the entitled parents, right? The parents pay too much attention to teenage gossip, live vicariously through their children, taking the role of a influencer, and also instead of just their kids going to school, being with their friends and everything else, they're also the parents that are out there, they're hanging out, and they're wanting to meet all your friends because, again, your friends, they're treating their kids like friends, so they're going to meet all the other friends and just, again, be that cool, have that cool facade and be there for them, but do whatever they damn well want to, right? Exactly. They're basically the role of an influencer and using their kids as actors in their own twisted play. Meaning they're using the kids as a shield, if you will, and a go-between when it comes to the fact that they want to be a part of all that and they're going to get involved in whatever way possible with all the friends. And as they grow up and you go through middle school and high school and everything else, getting into high school and all that stuff, I mean, it gets to higher and more dangerous levels because the kids are older, so it's more in the process. But now with technology and with social media and everything else, kids are becoming, more aware, and more things like these, like this cool parent stuff, are going on. If it doesn't make the news or anything, we may not know about it, but it's happening somewhere. Everybody out there, what do you think? Again, listening and hearing all this, you could be on any one of these sides of the coin. You could be that centermost point of the pendulum. You could be over to the left of the pendulum or to the right of the pendulum, as I just aforementioned and explained. Again, or maybe you're not. But like I said, this is very interesting, and they've got many things that have gone awry and wrong. Things on like Dateline and the ID channel and other stuff that's actually happened in this manner where it's really not cool and it shouldn't be going on, but it is. It's crazy. This is a very toxic way to be with kids and raises in quotes, red flags about the kind of repercussions that can affect the view of right and wrong in the world. And also the view of right and wrong in your kids' lives and everything else. And maybe you didn't go out to intentionally do this. But again, with social media and everything else going on, people are way more influenced and way more worried about clicks, and you didn't like this for me, you didn't like that for me, or my kids, or my kid had a party and you weren't a part of it, you weren't there, or to the tune of whatever else is going on. Yeah, I mean, so then again, you have to think, was it more for you, or was it more in all of these different ways? Is it more for you, or is it more for your kids? And if this is playing out in your lives in any of these three of the perfect storm of parenting, where do you stand with all this? Or, it could be a sad situation for somebody else. It really could. You don't know. You never know. Okay, so I also have I do my research, and for all the content and everything, there's this article called Entitled Parents from Parent Q. There's either a magazine or an online website, called Parent Avenue. Anyway, so the entitled culture is one that is set by the parents on how they have elitist mentality and lifestyle that sets the tone of how the family operates on the daily. It's crazy. Again, from the moment that your kids wake up till the moment they go to bed, you have everything planned, scheduled, all in a fixed situation. It could be that entitled parent where they've got, you need a complete itinerary to plan everything, every minute of every day, even down to probably restroom breaks, which is crazy because your kids should be able to, be a kid, but can they? or will they? That's the true question here, right? So basically, by the age of 5, they begin their development. This is kids in general. By the age 5, all kids usually get, they begin their development in cognitive thinking, coincidence, that kids soak up routine, status, well-to-do activities, and so on and so forth. They're taking everything in. They're learning everything. They have concrete learning and all this other stuff by the age of 5. Again, I'm not a doctor or anything. I do an awareness exercise of being all my podcast episodes, and it's just this kind of common knowledge. I mean, you can look it up and everything else too. You can Google it if you want to, or Bing, or actually Amazon's even coming out with its own search engine too here pretty soon, according to some shows I heard. But anyway, you can look it up as you want to. I'm just saying that's kind of a fact of life, right? That's kind of life in itself and in a bubble, if you will, in what we do. All right, so basically they soak up routines, status, well-to-do activities, and the money and things they have versus other kids, and being a person of actions and speaking with no filter. Sometimes in life you have to let your kids be kids and have the ability to speak. And again, you have to be careful and be concerned for things because it's 2024, not 1924. But sometimes you have to let your kids think for themselves and have the opportunity to be themselves, right? Exactly. They pick up and have every good quality and bad habit, foul language, elitist attitude, and you don't think they are mimicking what they use their young sensory minds on. Basically, everything you do, say bad, using bad language, using whatever you're doing, they're mimicking, they're seeing all that, and they're going to emulate all that, and then that's going to be learned experience, and as they grow up, that's going to be a part of what they are and who they are. They're their own person, but I mean, if you set a great example, then awesome, that's there. But if there's these bad examples, bad intentions, and all these other things that are going on, those are also playing a major role. So, they take it all in, and sadly, lost in all of this persona status, lost is the gratitude and joy. The entitled don't understand these qualities in life. Everything is expected, not earned, etc. So again, gratitude and joy, appreciating everything. People do something for you, thank them for it. All these wonderful things about if you work hard and you do all these other right things and you work on all these, as kids, you work on projects and things like that. It gives them an opportunity to succeed. And if they fail, the only way you can really learn is through failure. But kids have to, kind of fly without a net sometimes and have that opportunity to fail. They have to be given the opportunity to have joy and gratitude, but it's the true fact that they can appreciate things instead of reading about things and doing and all these other things and social media and stuff. It's they themselves with this opportunity. Again, in the article and everything else, they talk about the ideas and concepts to steer clear of entitlement. Okay, so we're going to break things down a little bit and run things out. Here we go. 1, decide no one owes you anything. Again, this is about the entitlement thing. Okay, so don't decide no one owes you anything. Appreciate what you get allows to enjoy life in all aspects. 2, be generous. Again, these are things that most entitled people don't realize. They just kind of take everything for granted. They go somewhere, everything's expected because of who they are, the status and all that. It's expected when they go somewhere that they're going to be treated a certain way. They're going to come park their car. They're going to do this for them. They're going to do that for them. They just expect it. And it shouldn't be that way. Again, 2 is be generous. Most elite are hoarders of everything and blame where possible. Give openly and kindly, credit where credit is due, meaning appreciate the people for what they do for you. If they're out there doing something, they do something exceptional, let them know. Instead of just, going about your own business and focusing on self and your inner self and your self-loathing and your own narcissism and everything else, put that aside and allow for it all to happen. Okay, then hold what you have loosely. Appreciate what you have, relationships and fortunes, knowing everything can be taken away and you can have nothing. Most entitled people don't look at it that way. There's no way it's even close, because they just expect that, it could be, money that's handed down or wherever else is going on. If you earned it yourself and everything else, and you have the right perspectives, great. But most of the elite people, they just expect it to be the way I just explained. No, there are all nice and virtuous and are to be appreciated in all three phases of parenting scenarios, the three I just listed. Okay, this is where I ask you out there in this equation episode, are you involved in parenting with one, entitlement, apathy, or the cool parenting styles? Or if not, do you know somebody else? Or if you're the younger people, you're the younger people that are out there. Have you seen it gone through, or have you seen it all? Or are you kind of a part of those different cliques, or have you just heard about them, read about them, or looked into them? It's all posing questions out there, because again, it's to question everything and to give all the perspectives and everything else. That's what the AOI podcast does, right? So are you looking at the part of that, or do you know some kid who is going through this, discussed here in this episode? As always, every episode is an awareness exercise, delving into the subject matter. You listening are not alone. Everyone here in the AOI, the Arena of Ideas, are my family and friends, and the ideas here the ideas of everyone matter. Okay, what I'm going to do right now is we're going to break this up into another little bite of some commercial. I'm going to go into bumper music and a break. Again, you can hit pause or whatever. We chop this up. I try to make it to where it's palatable by everyone, and it's not so much and not so overwhelming. So here's what we'll do. As you can hear that sound, that is bumper music for episode 56, Parental Apathy, entitled Vanity, A Perfect Storm of Parenting. We'll be right back. All right, this lady can sing, man. That's incredible. That's a great song and everything, but we're getting back to it. Again, welcome everybody. If you've been here, this is your first time listening to the podcast and you decided to check out this episode, I want to thank you. Or if you've gone through and listened to them all and you've been a part of the entire process, I've been doing this for roughly about 2 years, and it's been a wonderful journey. And with all of you in this process, like I said, if it's your first time here or if you've been here for the longest time listening and everything else, I appreciate all of you in this process. I thank all of you for being here, for listening, being engaged, and taking the things from your experiences in life and everything else and making it a part of putting it out there for all of us. I appreciate all of it. And again, thanks to Keyshawn again for this opportunity to kind of do the research, check it out, look into it. It's crazy, but it's happening out there. All these different things, these different faces are all happening, from the ones that hyper care to could give two bleeps about anything. And then that's the two corners. And then if you come down to the other point at the bottom, it's those cool parents that make that triangle, if you will, that triad of the whole thing. That's it so far. Okay. So anyway, kind of throwing some closing. These are again, some remarks and things. Yeah, I went through and had some, content and things referenced out there for these different situations. Again, I already asked you, where do you stand with all this? Where do you sit with all, where do you see, or is it just from afar and you have the other side of the spectrum and things are going wonderfully? Okay. I mean, all of us and everyone is in a whole different situation. That's why you could take 10 different people and you could take one idea and it's going to be a different situation based on, are you left-handed, right-handed, male or female? Are you young? Are you old? Different demographics, different, learning experiences as we grow up. That's how we get perspective when it comes to whatever we're talking about. Exactly. So, yes, as parents, your goal is to raise your children upright, knowing right from wrong, and being courteous, manners, respect, etc. Well, this is 2024, and with technology, life moving in a nanosecond world, letting social media raise kids to think of self and what and how to dominate. I mean, it's crazy what people will do and the things and the extremes they'll go to in any situation. And that's life in itself, but does it have to be that way? Can we just let our kids be kids? Is it possible? It's possible, but does it truly happen? When you say it does it? Are you convincing yourself of that? Or is it being allowed and it's the opportunity for your kids to have learned experience and grow up? Well, you have entitled parents who use their status, wealth, popularity, rule all that they purvey, and bestow upon them, their kids, this mentality, right? They get their kids in that process thinking that they are all that and everything else. And it's not being humble, not using, gratitude or joy or anything. It's expected. It's this entitlement mentality. Apathetic parents who could care less of the hyper-focused helicopter world, don't care and use money and other things as a band-aid, a babysitter to be there on their behalf. Be the babysitter on their behalf, basically. And the cool parents who go out there and go out of their way to buy at any cost their opportunity to live life, befriending and popularizing their kids to basically be a part of all that process. And also living through their kids via their other friends and everything of their kids in that process of being there and being equal to them instead of having the dynamic of being a parent and it's your kids and they're kind of living their own lives. You're interjecting yourself in that process. Thanks again to Keyshawn for this thought-provoking topic between the blurred lines of reality and at the crossroads between right and wrong. All three parents come to grip and know ultimately you have done right by your kids and allowed them to be kids making their own decisions, and you can accept the outcome. Can you? That's a big question mark at the end of that ... because can you? Is it possible? I don't know. That's the whole thing is that, everybody could be in different, like I said, stages and phases of life. It could be different situations and all that good stuff. I mean, this is a very interesting topic of discussion. In fact, I believe this was the first one he came up with, Keyshawn. Anyway, this is the big one that was really incredible. All of them are amazing. The people-pleasing, frenemies, and now this one. All of them are just great. Thanks again for him and coming up with that idea. And through a learned experience or who knows what, but that was an interesting perspective, an interesting deep dive when it came to all that. Of course it did. Okay, so we just broke from bumper music, of course. I just played that. So what we're going to do then is that's the end of this episode for the actual topic, the topic and title of the episode. But then, of course, we go into the comedy corner. We go into the mic check, and then we cover Remember the Legends. I get all those things in too. And then we're going to quickly get into the process of wrapping a bow on this episode. I love it. Again, this is episode 56. I love it. I can't believe gotten to 56 episodes. All right, without further ado, let's get to the comedy corner. Oh, and I almost forgot. I forgot to read the disclaimer. This is the little CYA in the situation of this podcast because, again, everything is, it's stuff that I research. I do get the content built and everything, but it's the opinions of all of us and our opportunities to speak for ourselves in the process of this podcast. So the disclaimer, all right? So the views and opinions expressed in this and all Arena of Ideas podcast episodes are that of the host and guests, not to be taken out of context or misrepresented by any means possible. I almost forgot to get that in. That's important to have in there. Trust me. Trust me. I love doing this and everything else, but, if you don't make sure you're doing everything in a proper context and manner, then it kind of spins out of control and goes awry. So, all right, here we go. Okay, so, again, this is the Comedy Corner. I've written a song about a tortilla. Well, it's really more of a rap, really. Can February March? No, but April, May. A duck walks into the pharmacy to purchase chapstick and asks the cashier to put it all on his bill. I'm not a comedian. Again, I'm not a comedian. This is just, I love to throw comedy in there, so please bear with me. Again, I'm not a comedian. I don't profess to be one. Okay? All right. So, one last one here. Egyptians claimed to invent the guitar, but they were such liars. Lyers. A lyre is another instrument. All right. Haha, that's funny. Okay, so... All right, that's the sounder, of course, for the segment on anyone? Mic check. Again, Nick from Pueblo, I want to give him credit and props. So every so often I kind of forget to give him the credit for that, but hey, he came up with the mic check with me. I've loved it ever since. Anyway, basically in this episode, dealing with the microphone check or mic check is Jelly Roll, the performer. Someone thought that was rather interesting. A couple people were talking about it, and so I decided to throw it in there. All right, so here we go. Jelly Roll. Jason Bradley Ford, Jelly Roll, singer, rapper, and songwriter, born December 4th, 1984 to present. He's still alive, of course. Popular. He's out there all over the place doing crossover songs. He's into country songs and stuff now. He originally started to rap, but anyway... Born and raised in Antioch, Tennessee, started his career in 2003. It took him to get to 2022 to become popular and notarized through the entire process of music. It is a long road, and some people never get there, but he did. With the single "Son of a Sinner" to achieve notoriety. He basically did that song in 2022 and got him notoriety. Starting out as a tattooed rapper who had the ability to cross over to country music and really dig deep and sing about his troubled past. He went through a whole bunch of addiction and so many other things. He used what he went through in life as a part of the process in which to get his act out there and what he was talking about. Making music his therapy, addressed his criminal past, and journey to sobriety. Amazing. Both are very daunting tasks to take that takes a large commitment and perseverance. Married to Alyssa DeFord and has 2 children to keep himself grounded and life in perspective. That's what he usually does. His family and his kids are there to keep him in the process of in the real life as we all are dealing with everything. One year, the following achievements happened, and basically from 2023, everything clicked. He could do no wrong. So basically, in 2023, he won New Artist at the CMT Awards, New Artist, Best New Artist. Not bad for someone who started in 2003. 10 studio albums and a real who's who of collaborations and hit songs to impress the music industry and the legion of fans who are totally, completely committed and loyal to him. There's a bunch of them out there. He even lended his stature in 2024 in support of the Fentanyl Act. There's a Fentanyl Act that they put together and ran through Congress to try and help the process dealing with fentanyl and opioids and all these drugs and everything. He was a part of the task force in support of that. He testified for it. Hopefully it becomes law. Check out his catalog of music and career. His star is rising and the ceiling is open as far as the eye can see. That's my take on him. Again, if you want to look into more about him, look him up, do your own research on him, check out his catalog of music and everything else. The guy's massively talented. He's very humble. He's gone through a lot through the fire, through so many things. Amazing though. No, that guy's a huge icon in music and a great example of no matter what happens in your life and what you're going through and everything else, all of us can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We can take the things that have happened in our lives. It's never what you do to begin with. It's what you do to take corrective action and the things that you do. Excuse me. I shouldn't be saying that. Sorry about that. I'm not even supposed to say sorry for what my actions are either. But anyway, so some of the things that we go through and everything else in life, everyone has a testimony to all things. And that's why we have the AOI podcast, right? Anyway, back to it. Amazing what he's done, where he was. Look how long it took him to get there. Again, not everyone can go be a viral sensation, go online, social media, popularity, and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, you hit it big. You within less than a year, all of a sudden, you're Taylor Swift or whoever else knows whatever else. But anyway, anything's possible. But some people it's overnight, and some people it's the rest of your life when it comes to being popular. All right, so that ends up being the microphone check, right? Okay, so. All right, that to be Remember the Legends sounder. Again, episode 55 was a conversation where Chris and I had spoke and we discussed kind of a point counterpoint situation dealing with Star Wars and Star Trek. Again, that was kind of our research and everything that we did. Well, I never really had a chance to go through and deal with George Lucas for Star Wars, nor go through Gene Roddenberry when it came to Star Trek. So I already have this written out and everything else. We didn't cover it. I was going to kind of do that as an open for that episode, but then we just kind of got sidetracked and kind of, went sideways, if you will, and had a great time. But I'm going to go through and do this because I still think it's these people, George Lucas and Gene Roddenberry, are just these amazing pioneers in sci-fi and space, and just did such an incredible job. I still think it's worthy to at least express and discuss them as legends. I still do. So that's why I'm kind of throwing this over here into this one. And so George Lucas of Star Wars, again, did more than that. He's the most noted by that, though. All right, so George Lucas of Star Wars. American filmmaker George Walton Lucas, born May 14th, 1944. It'd be ironic if it was May 4th, huh? Instead of 14th. May the 4th be with you. Okay, so born May 14th, 1944 to present. Filmmaker, producer, screenwriter, editor, and entrepreneur. He He is known to create Star Wars, Indiana Jones, founded Lucasfilm, LucasArts, Industrial Light and Magic, and THX. THX, I believe, is their sound. It's that sound system and the sound that they created for movies and things like that. In fact, that process is still being used today. And there's some of the different companies and things that still use that sound. That's how incredibly advanced and such a trailblazer on the cutting edge George Lucas is. He has received numerous awards and accolades along the way, as with Roddenberry, Star Trek. Their genius, both of them, was the intricate details and perfection portrayed in their space franchises, right? Considered the pioneer of the modern blockbuster. And again, this is back to Star Wars. The pioneer of the modern blockbuster through his ambitious 9-movie prognostication way back in the 1970s. Basically, on 60 Minutes, there's a show called 60 Minutes, still out there, I believe. Anyway, way back then, they did a kind of expose kind of a deal with George Lucas back when Star Wars was hitting and hot. And we're talking those movies used to have lines around the block and everything else. It was incredible. So anyway, back in the 70s, basically clouding that the story of space was a complex journey for this independent filmmaker. Something as food for thought, George Lucas collaborated with Steven Spielberg. He helped produce, co-wrote, and created another landmark franchise with the timeless Indiana Jones. A series of movies, a fact I didn't realize happened till I prepared this biopic about the legendary filmmaker and mogul and movie visionary. Yet his work with light and magic and the pioneer of THX sound is still in use today. So far ahead of his time, even down to the way in which he filmed the Star Wars movies and everything else way back then. He just had such technique and so many different things he did. Just like I said, trailblazer, trendsetter, and just what an amazing icon and iconic and representation of what it really truly means to be a legend, a legendary type person. And that's why we do remember the legends, because it gives context to everything, just like I do the mic check to give context of everything, to completely make it understandable and to make everything in life have context, matter, and be out there. Because again, I've got younger people and maybe even older people, so whoever, they have a shirt on and they don't even know who's on their shirt. And so that mic check thing is all about letting people understand and getting a true credence and context to when it comes to about bands. Remember the legends? Sometimes people don't, I think in school a lot, they don't do much research. And when it comes to truly understanding who people are, well, this gives people an opportunity to get an idea of, you've heard the name before, but did you know the story about that person? So that's why we do remember the legends in this whole process of doing the podcast episodes, right? Exactly. So to put it in context here, of course, there's ways to get at this podcast. Michael Kingston 723 at yahoo.com. You got the phone number published if you look at the information at however you listen. So again, it's still at 29 places to listen as far as I know, 29 places to hear this podcast. However, wherever you listen to a podcast, you can do that. Now, you can also hit follow, subscribe, and all those other things, ways in which thumbs up, however you can do it, however you listen, and wherever you listen, that's what you can do. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications. And all these things are called impressions, and the way in which they measure, and they see just exactly how the AOI podcast is going and where it's going and what it's doing, and the audience it's building. There's impressions and listenership. And this is the way in which we grow this podcast. We collectively, because again, I consider all of you out there family and friends. If you're listening for the first time, thank you. If you've listened before, I thank you again. And basically that's what I'm talking about here. When it comes to this podcast, all the time. I'm not going to go through the fabric, foundation, and framework of the podcast, which is kind of the previous I'd done as an open. I'm not going to do it every single time. But just know this, that everything that I talk about in this podcast, just know this, I'm not going to sit there and, because I'm not going to make it boring and contrite and all these other things in the very opening. But no, those are still the same fabric, foundation, and framework of what I do for this podcast and what it represents for the content, the conversation, beast rants, rapes, issues, problems, all these other things that I've stipulated and laid out there. I'm not going to keep laying it out there on every single episode, but they are, again, they matter. You matter. What you have to say matters. Your ideas and everything else is an important, integral part of what we do here. Correct? That is totally correct. Okay, so without further ado, until next time, this has been your host, Mike Kingston of the AOI Podcast, your podcast. Have the best of the rest of your day. And until next time,